Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome to a Dungeons and Lasers launch party. The new Porthaven set dropped early this morning, and as you know, that's how our channel started with me and the little guy talking about Dungeons and Lasers, gluing them up, painting them up, building them up, playing with them, and uh, they just launched the every time they launch a Kickstarter game found or crowdfunding operation, we're in on it, whole hog, in it to win it. There every minute of the 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 project, and this one just blows a lot of the other ones away. I'm not going to be shy about it. The Duselaire was okay. It was, I mean, it was pretty good, but it didn't grab me like the first one did. It didn't grab me like some of the other ones did. It definitely didn't grab me as much as the caves. We were all talking and asking, when are we going to get some caves, some natural caverns, that sort of thing. And I'll probably have it in my hot little hands by the end of next month, maybe a little June-ish, because it's coming all the way from Poland. But wow, it's just I have the Falling Star sailing ship from Wizards of the Coast. It was nice. It was a beautiful model, but not a lot to do. Not a lot of room to move around. Not a lot of painting required. It took us a while, but some brown, some washes, some gold and brass trim, and it was done. The Reaper first one, the the Charon ship, that goes across the river Styx, was mediocre at best. The really big one Reaper put out a while back had nothing but problems with warping and made out of crummy material. Just going to be honest, everything that all the plastics that Dungeon Lasers use, top notch. The sculpts are better than just about everybody else out there. I like them a lot more than a lot of Games Workshop products, just because of the character. It always reminds me of the great Max Carr, the sculptor for Heritage and writer of several games back in the day. And his models always had such absolutely wonderful character faces, the expressions. And mind you, they were 25 millimeter, and I can still to this day remember the little Hobbit archer that came in the Dungeon Dwellers uh, Caverns of Doom set. The miniature was about a centimeter in every measurement. Height, width, depth. The face was just millimeters, but without even using a magnifying glass, you could just see the character in his face. And the same goes for all of the Dungeons and Lasers miniatures I've ever picked up, ever put together, painted, and put on my shelves. Now we're going to look at the Port Haven Kickstarter. It's a nautical themed, and as you guys all know, that is my number one, number two jam. Uh, Sci-fi westerns and nautical stuff always, you know, taking the top two slots one way or the other, depending on the mood, and depending on the weather. And right now, we've got some stormy skies, some crisp temperatures in the air, and spring. While it should be here, we're still struggling with the tail end of winter, and that's sailing weather. You ask me. I know it's not really sailing weather, but every good sailing story has a good storm. And well, let's take a look at the Kickstarter, shall we? I want to bring this up. Oh, I have to actually share my screen. Still new at this, folks, but it's better than the way we used to do it, right? Um, if you remember how we used to do it, the little guy and I would stand in front of our big screen TV, and his mom would film us as we were trying to scroll through the Kickstarter on our TV's internet. But now we've got this, and here, as you can see, there's Macaw the Griffin is a parrot griffin. There's the video that we're not going to watch because who knows what kind of trouble we'll get into. Um, they've already made their goal in 2.5 minutes, maybe a little bit less. They've already rang up $819,000 with 14 days left to go. 2,143 backers still, uh, with more to go. I know they're going to break 10,000. Here's all the YouTubers that Archon Studios likes more than us, even though we've been there since the very beginning. Here's the aboleth. Uh, looks just like the one that Wizards of the Coast put out, but it looks nothing like the original aboleth from, I believe it was Monster Manual 2, the sort of giant shrimp, lobster looking thing that I always thought was, it had its own charm and character back in the day. This one's a Cthulhu looking critter that, still pretty scary, still an interesting model, but I'm old school as you can get, so I like the older one. 50 millimeters, not bad. There's the Chimera. This is a gimme, a freebie for the uh, your first pledge. So hopefully I'll get it because it's a sharp looking model. I've got probably 10 different Chimera models from Grenadier models, Heritage, uh, Ralpartha, all the way up through to Whiz Kids, and now we get this one. Definitely, I would have put the dragon in the middle, and I would have kept the lion head, but still, you know, sharp model. So here's the ship. Look at this thing. It's almost 3 feet in length, 28 inches. A lot more to it. The rigging's nice. I don't know if it has cloth sails. I thought I heard somewhere that it does. It's got a gridded out format, two decks plus uh, the captain's cabin and the fore cabin. I know what that's called. I shouldn't I? And you can get it in the clear plastic or pre-painted. I want all three, but want one hand, the rest. 4 core sets available. The tavern set, which everybody's made one. Everybody needs one. This would be the one I would go with because you get to do everything yourself. The Bazaar, you should have called it the Bazaar of the Bazaar, paying some homage to Fritz Lieber's famous story. The actual port set and the ship crew. And honestly, who doesn't need all of that? If you're going with this, you might as well go all in. The stretch goals, I don't know what that creature is, but I want one. If that's their sea serpent, they really should have gone the old school way with multiple bases, so you get that hoop, the sort of Loch Ness monster, the stereotypical traditional sea monster where you can see the loops in the water. That way you can make it as big or as little as you want, kind of along the lines of the airship from last Kickstarter. Lots of little bits. I like that the globe is actually smooth on this one. That way you can do your own thing with it. Animal companions, that was a fun set. The druid was right. I had a lot of fun doing that set. As a matter of fact, some of them, nope, I put them away. I finished that. But you've got a couple of neat, interesting looking characters. That tiki thing is just the thing for our good friend OGGM. He'll know what I'm talking about. They're books. I don't have any of them. I always skipped on them. They're 5e, and me, I'm going to write and create my own stories and my own stuff. But for newbies, uh, and you're playing 5e, I would definitely get them because if they're books or anything like their other products, definitely something worth having. And I know I can get the books on the secondary market later when people have used them and ran them and like, I don't need this anymore. Why back it now? Because it's Archon Studios. It's that simple, guys. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for them. And the savings with any crowdfunding they sponsor is just out of this world. Early delivery, every Kickstarter I've always gotten, except I think one was a little slow, but they're usually before schedule, which is like a year. When you're looking at other Kickstarters, I'm still waiting on some Kickstarters that are 2, 3, 4 years in the making. When you know you're going to get your Kickstarter in 9 to 11 months, awesome. And now that they've got the select pay where you can make 6 payments, make it the bite a lot less. I think if you're all in, it's like $56 a month for 6 months, which is really good compared to some of the other uh, split payments that charge you, 4 payments in a month. Well, that doesn't really help for us who aren't made of money. And then if you add on shipping, it's another maybe $10 to get everything. One ship, all 4 sets, um, made for painting. Their stuff is awesome. Now here I'm gonna disagree with easy to assemble because Europe will not let them print the instructions. You've got to go online and get the online instructions. And I don't know about you guys, but when I'm putting together a model or painting, I'm using my internet device, my tablet, my phone, whatever, to listen to music or other YouTubers. The last thing I want to do is have to go back and forth on the screen. And and to be honest, there were a couple of their models. One I think I have here. It's this spider lady, like Drider looking thing. I could never get it to fit on the base properly, and the air elemental was a nightmare. And having the instructions in front of you on paper that you can, you know, look at and stop and put away and pull back out when you come back to work really make it easier. But I understand that's not on them. They're doing what they got to do because of laws and regulations and shipping the printed material. It's weird how that works because the books, that's not a problem. But anyways, 5e compatible. You know how I feel about that. I'm just going to move right along. Actual scale. Here we go. WizKids, Reaper Miniatures, Games Workshop, and Dungeons and Lasers. Obviously, the Games Workshop miniature, they picked a model that really shows off the detail. WizKids is, unless you're getting some of their bigger models, it's not a fan. Reaper Miniatures, I love Reaper Miniatures, but their white bones were hot garbage, made out of hot garbage and poured into molds. The metal miniatures from Reaper are some of the best metal miniatures ever made. Why they ever decided to break from that, I don't know. And then Dungeons and Lasers, if you don't mind it having a few extra pieces to put together than the old days, you'll do just fine. Now here's the ship again. Look at that thing, perfect detail everywhere. I think I will magnetize the masts, and that way it'll be easy to put away. And depending on how modular it is, I probably wouldn't assemble the other details and not glue them in. I wish this was expandable like the airship, but that would have been probably excuse me, a sculpting and logistic nightmare. But just look at some of that detail. I mean, you throw in all the little scatter terrain, you get some cool minis on there. You looks like there's plenty of room to have some fights above and below deck. The anchor, that looks cool. Oh, there's the sails. I'm guessing those are cloth because if they're plastic, that's gonna be kind of rough. And if you have fabric sails, and if you don't know how to paint or don't like painting or find the prospect of painting this bad boy up, you can get it pre-painted, and I'll be reviewing the pre-painted cave set as soon as it gets on our doorstep. We will put it up on the dinner table and show it off. But everything I've seen about it is literally game changing for you know gamers and modelers alike. You cut it free from the sprue, a little sanding, at the connection points to the sprue, and it's on your table and ready to game. And the paint will last for decades. I saw them try to scratch the paint off with a buck knife, and it just wasn't. They just said, "Nope, I'm staying here. Paint's not going anywhere." Look at that. That's gorgeous. That's I couldn't ask for more other than maybe hoping that the cannons are better scale than they were on the airship. That was kind of they were kind of dinky. That scene right there where they go through the porthole, just gorgeous. All the character, you can just spot the uniqueness of the models themselves. You really can't ask for much more. Now here we go. This is the Ghost Ship, which is the same model but in clear plastic. Oh my goodness, that's something you want to have out on your on your mantle or on your dinner table. Find a way to get some tea lights in there, light it up like they're doing here for Halloween, or maybe you're doing a Pirates of the Caribbean movie marathon, or just a pirate movie marathon. This is a must have for the boy and I. We there's just no way. If I had to choose and I could only get one ship, it would be the clear one. Now, I will give you guys a little tip. If you are getting anything that they've made in clear plastic, get yourself a hot knife. They're not that expensive, like 20 bucks. Get them at Walmart and cut the pieces free. Do not clip them. You will regret it because they will snap. The clear plastic is brittle and it just does not have any give when you're applying clippers. So get yourself a hot knife and you'll thank me later. Trust me, we did a whole video on it years ago. Now here's the tavern set: 24 minis, 97 scatter pieces, 450 millimeter bases, and 28, 25 millimeter bases. Look at all everything in yellow that you see there is what you get as one quarter or one set. It's got all kinds of tables and benches and chairs and barrels and everything you could want to dress up a tavern. And as you notice, the tavern itself was built out of Dungeons and Lasers walls. Again, you can, like Legos, you can rebuild it in any configuration you want. And look at that. That's one of the nicest tavern setups I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of them. The stuff WizKids makes cannot even compare. The stuff that Dwarven Forge makes is a nightmare in weight, fragility, and just it's kind of generic. But look at some of those characters: the female orc waitress, the male human bartender, the frogman cleaner, the male elf musician, the other musicians. Just there's some adventurers you can have hanging out in the tavern, like you don't have enough of those. But some of these are pretty interesting. The female halfling druid, that's kind of cool. The female human cleric, all of these. The male elf rogue bard, interesting. Tavern patrons. You've got the drunk dwarf male, the woman of the night. See, they don't even worry too much about the adult themes. She's not naked or anything like that, but it's still, you know, Dungeon Master's Guide. The famous table that we don't talk about. It was a thing. You might as well at least have them on your street corners. The passed out male human, the risky gambler with cards in hand, all this stuff. The sleeping man, all of it great. Here's the scatter terrain that comes with it: tables, chairs, barrels, firewood, barrel rack, multiple beds, bookshelves, all kinds of cool stuff. The tavern counter. I could actually use like four of those to really make it, so it goes all the way across the room. Little game set like backgammon, I'm guessing. Of course, your obligatory help wanted uh, pegboard. That's pretty cool. You could really get some details in that. It's a little fancier than needed, but what the heck. Uh, Again, the globe with no 3D relief on it, so that you can just paint your own. Love that. Now here we come to the ship's crew. What will we do with a drunken sailor? Well, you know the rest of that song, and if you don't, what are you doing with your life? Look at that ship. Why they've got the bunk beds up there? Unless there's a wall, that I guess there is a wall cutting that off. But look at all that. Even the bunk beds alone. That's something I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to put those in my dungeons, just because the knolls or whatever. That's how they're stacked up in the living quarters. The cannons look a little better, still a little low, guys. They should be taller Otherwise, you're going to have to stoop down or be on your hands and knees to load them. And I know that wasn't the case, but all the other gadgetry and goodies in there. Now let's look at the individuals. That ogre right there, that would make for a very. Oh, he's got a shark, a shark jaw as part of his helmet. That's awesome. And Morgan, named after a real person, I do believe. Captain Stormbeard, Beppo, the first mate. Cool. More pirates and privateers. That's cool. You got the I love that one. The half orc privateer number 2 with the shovel digging up the buried treasure or making the hole for the buried treasure. This tiefling, this infernalkin with the freaking plasma rifle. Interesting choice. The minotaur, the fish folk privateer number 2 is kind of interesting. I could definitely use that in my games. The shark guy, love that. It's ridiculous, but I could absolutely see. There's were sharks. Why not shark people? I've got lupines and catfolk and ratkin in my games. Shark people, why not? Tell me that wouldn't just be. Uh, I keep picturing the old Street Sharks cartoon. The human surgeon, I'd have called him a Sawbones. The human musician's kind of ridiculous looking. I like the elf navigator. It reminds me of an NPC in one of my games. More powder monkeys, things like that. Now here comes the scatter terrain. 8 bunk beds, crates. Like we don't have like I've literally got 100 different crates from 20 different companies over the years, but whatever. The bazaar, this is another home run. The little market stalls, the wagons, all the individuals that will go into again. Everything you see in yellow is what you get. All kinds of different patrons and sales folks. There's some really interesting ones in here I'm going to get to um, in a moment. More scattered terrain, wooden signs, all these little tiny props. Though you better be very careful what you wish for because these they're not going to get as much use as you think, and cleanup is going to be a nightmare, and you're going to lose them. It's going to be like Legos all over again. Now here's the customers, the mother with child, the household butler. Oh my God, who hasn't wanted that miniature like 20 times in this hobby? Mike, the paying customer. Okay. The indecisive woman can't decide which dress she wants to buy. The lovebirds, that's a very, very charming piece as well. The townsfolk, the pickpocket, the thief. All of these are great. The religious preacher, the human lad armed with a stick, the shell game scammer. I love that one. The Tengu plague doctor, absolutely gorgeous. The wagon, you really can't have enough wagons. I find in your game, although just you're gonna need them. Now here comes the port. This is my favorite set of the 4 because if you look carefully, that one boat in the middle is not included, but the 2 boats on the side, the cranes, the netting, all these little things really will make your port town come to life. Here's the port town NPCs. Uh, I like the human dock enforcer. That's a great mini. Cargo inspector, the dwarven fisherman, sword and steel really got a kick out of that. Naomi really loved that one. It's like it's cute, but you know, I don't like the 3-legged stool he's sitting on. It just makes it takes something away from the mini, makes him look a lot shorter. Grey Dwarf Syndicate member. This ogre, another great ogre mini. Their bigger models are my favorites. Human Syndicate, you mean Ninja. Human Syndicate Mafioso. Human Syndicate member number 2, you're Kingpin. Nice. Uh, some orcs. That guy looks more like a fish man than an orc, but okay. Uh, and here we go with the scatter terrain. Those cranes are just you're going to get a lot of use out of not just here in the nautical campaign, but how many times have you had a dwarven mine or something like that where you wish you had a couple of models like that so the players could do the arrow flint and swing across the chasm. The fish stand, it's cute, but here these boats, these little boats right here, you are going to get a lot of use out of them because they have these conversion kits where you can turn it into an elven skiff, a dwarven skiff. It looks kind of Egyptian almost, which could also uh, be an interesting take on it if you want to get, like I said, a lot of use out of it. Then you got the orc skiff, again, more use. I don't know what that stuff is on the back. Like anybody on the dwarf or the orcish skiff is going to get any time to relax, on a voyage. No. And here we come to the different pledges, ranging from 99 bucks on up to the higher one. This one, you get one core set, all the regular stretch goals. Now, there are stretch goals and then there are super stretch goals. And if you're going to go in it, you definitely want all of the stretch goals because those technically they're free. As you'll find out later, if you didn't get them, they will be back for sale later, but they'll be more than well, they won't be free, and you will pay a pretty penny for them because they will give you some great minis. The airship and the Kraken were super stretch goals last time, and you know what they do with the stretch goals and the super stretch goals, it basically giving you the stuff. I mean, you can argue that you're still paying for it, but when you piece it out, you're paying nickels and dimes per piece, you know, and it's fantastic. The deckhand you get uh, two core sets for what was it 179 bucks, so about 200 bucks, so about 100 bucks a core set. It may seem like a lot, but then when you factor in the stretch goals, or if you get a bigger pledge, the super stretch goals, or you can just get a playable ship, or you can upgrade it to the painted ship for another 100 bucks, or the ghost ship for another 50. Again, I want all three, uh, even though I'm honestly thinking I may just get one just so I can give it away for someone who's never owned a single Dungeons and Lasers set. Can you imagine waking up Christmas morning and that's under your tree? Just saying. The Sailor is 229 and you get three core sets. Again, why would you do that? Just go for all four because you're going to regret it if you didn't get that one core set when you look at all the pieces that you didn't get. And I believe when we get to the first mate that's four stretch goals, you see that it's 279, which drops the price down to way less than 100 bucks a core set. Plus, you get where you get two core sets and a ship. That's not bad. But then you also get the regular and super stretch goals at that price. And then, of course, the Pirate Lord, which is everything sort of. You get four core sets and you get a ship and you get the super and regular stretch goals. That's just a super bargain when you piece it all out and you figure out the prices. Um, Unfortunately, there's only 2 more weeks to go, so I'm going to have to do some fancy footwork to find a way to justify everything that I'd like to get. And there's, add to pledge. And now I want to go down here to the add-ons because there's some interesting. Well, I forgot. Here's uh, the stretch goals that have already been unlocked. There's the undead captain, a dwarf harbor master, a couple of fish folk, and I don't know what that is because they really don't say. Oh, sea giant. That's cool. That's cool. Kind of like a storm giant. Cammy the parrot, the naga, some RPG stuff, paperwork that have yet to be unlocked. Jim the penguin, the treasure chest mimic. Who doesn't need another mimic? I really really like these docks. I hope it's more than just one set because it's 20 bucks and well if all you got was that it's still worth it. But knowing them, you probably get a little bit more than that. More modules, and the giant lobster have yet to be unlocked. A hamster, not sure why that's a thing. More lizard folk, and I don't know how to pronounce that. Cacalia looks like a Ursula kind of character. Maddie the duck. I mean, you got to have a duck. I mean, you just. And then there's the sea serpent. I don't like the pose, but the detail, etc. If you guys remember, we made a sea serpent. It was about 3 feet long out of paper back in the day, and it turned out really nice, but nowhere nice as that. But then again, theirs isn't 3 feet long. Um, but if you just want the ship, the playable ship, unpainted, uh, 159 plus shipping, 258 for the painted one, and 208 for the ghost ship. That ghost ship is just, oh, it just knocks my socks off, folks. Some other things they're adding, you could add on the airship, $50, the sewers, which they were kind enough to send us a free set a couple years back. It's awesome. If and if you notice, the water is either clear plastic, or there's I think all the water is clear plastic, but they had different colors, like a blue, a green, maybe even the orange for lava. Which, I mean, who doesn't want lava flows running through their dungeon? The pre-painted city streets. I mean, if you're building the full table, why not? The dragon turtle, which I sent our friend Grim, and the kraken, $35, $35. And then these everything else here is stuff from previous sets. Of Season Thunder miniature pack. Mine's still unopened. I never got around to it. The Griffin, $20, a little steep. Chimera, a little more worth it. Aboleth, I have to see how big it is. If it's really tall, cool. The wagon, I think you get the wagon and the horse for $18. The market stall, that's come down $2. The skiff conversion kit, it should have just been a freebie with the skiffs. Uh, but then there's some ship extras that include in this clear plastic set over here. There's a clear plastic skiff and some other things which would make for a great Disney-esque haunted town, if you will. You can buy additional ship scatter terrain, more clear plastic stuff. Definitely, since that's not going to be part of most of the Kickstarters, you might want to look into that. The Baylor, I'm supposed to be getting one with the last Kickstarter. The thing is freaking huge. It would fill up one of our shelves and probably not fit. It's just massive, which means I'm going to have to magnetize the wings or they will break off. Just saying. The Balor's Gate pre-painted, that's kind of a neat piece. The gelatinous cube, that's one of the nicer ones, and green clear plastic. $20 for the Minotaur. I'm probably going to pass on that. Gervais the Etten, that's awesome. The Ancient Brain, I think I have to have that. Unless it's already in one of the sets I'm getting, I'll have to look into that. And Arachnea, the Spider Matriarch, Lolth. All these other sets are available. A lot of the old legacy sets, the Two Door Mansion, the Cave Tiers, that's kind of neat. Extra bases. Uh, I've got hundreds left over from previous Kickstarters of theirs, so probably not going to need that. But there's just so many things in this Kickstarter that we've all been dying for. The Giant Kraken, Dragon Turtle, those are repeats. But I'm going to drop that, and come back to me and my gorgeous face. Hey, sorry guys, I missed you in the chat. Wanted to show everybody out there who doesn't know what this is all about. If you're a fan of miniatures on your table and you want the terrain, uh, this set has got more to offer than a lot of the previous sets, with a few exceptions. Obviously, the original core set was just absolutely game changing for those of you who want a 3D dungeon and you want to be able to put it down and pack it back up without it taking hours and hours and hours. You've seen us do it before. We've put together a dungeon for you to show you how quick it can be done in an hour. You and a small child, because Jackie was a small child back then, 11 years old. Can you believe it? It's been 5 years, Cal. It's not six. It'll be 5 years in August. We've been doing this together. And how many ships to get? All of them. You have to have all of the ships. The skiffs, the ghost ship, the pre-painted, the painted. I'm right there, Cal. I'm basically going to mug my son and sell one of his kidneys. Oh wait, I did that for the last Kickstarter. Uh-oh. I wonder how much dog kidneys are going for. I'm kidding, folks. Yeah, this Kickstarter is just, you know, especially if you've got like, some little ones that aren't going to choke on the pieces and are going to play with it. You set them down for a little game of, let's just play with the miniatures, get them, interested in the whole idea. Uh, you know, 1,200 steps up from army men in the sandbox, kind of playing around, and then eventually teaching them rules and dice, and things like that. It's just, guys, my hat's off to you, but I'm not taking this one off because it's cold outside. It's kind of cold in here, but it's just absolutely stunning what these guys come up with every time. Both maybe an unpainted and a painted, plus the ghost ship. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got to have all three. And what I'll probably do is, uh, if I can manage it, I will give away the unpainted unpainted ship, just because I'm a jerk. I'm not going to give away the painted one, and I'm certainly not going to give away the clear plastic ship. And who knows? Maybe one of you lucky viewers out there, a year from now, or whenever it takes us to actually get to 1,000 subscribers, because we've been stuck at 900 for over a year now. It seems. I can't imagine why that is. But anyways, yeah, that ghost ship, man. That just I remember hearing about it about 6, 8 months ago, and I'm like, you're shitting me, right? Clear plastic ghost ship, almost 3 feet long, and you've got to have two because if you've only got one, what you don't get the pirate battle, the cutthroat island or Captain Blood scenes of ship versus ship, and if one of those ships is a ghost ship, oh darn, tell me that's not going to be a blast. I mean, honestly, your players jumping aboard the ghost ship, hoping it doesn't fade out of existence and leave them in the drink, at 3 o'clock in the morning, when the temperatures are, barely water. Uh, like Cal knows from my game, they were they were in a ship in the ocean with mostly ice, and a couple of the characters got pretty chilly that night. And yeah, I can just imagine how many times me personally I would end up being able to use those kind of models for an on the table game with an in person group. Uh, you know, ship to ship combat and on all that all the different kinds of adventures you can have with your game and your players. And when you have new players and new groups, you get to do it all over again. And hopefully, when I open the shop, those things will be in big glass cases, and you can guarantee when people come in, they're going to go right to that glass case and just ooh and ah over it, like, oh my god, you get to play D&D with those? Oh yeah, yeah, it's mandatory. It would be literally like a regular once a month thing. Oh, what do you mean you feel cheated? We don't have an actual ship model. Now we've got three plus a bunch of little ships to choose from. And I was thinking about it. If you had the Reaper ship, the Falling Star from WizKids, a couple of these ships, and a good maybe 2 or 4 ping pong tables worth of table space, you could have one of the most epic games of all time with a ship to ship combat game. Throw in a sea monster or something like that, and you could literally have one of the greatest games you've ever experienced with a little bit of island hopping and you know cannon fire and Uh, in our game, yeah. Well, Cal, one of these days we will get the game in person, and you know what? When that happens, I will make you bring your ships, and we can have a little battle of your ships versus my ships. What do you say? Right? We each get a ghost ship leading our fleet, of three or whatever ships, and see who maybe I'll run that island game. I ran this island game a long time ago, where I had 21 players in three groups of seven, all landing on an island with each having a third of a treasure map, trying to get to the actual treasure that was buried somewhere on the island. That was the little guy, and that was a blast. The players, killing each other off, trying to get that second or third piece of the map to find the buried treasure. Um, it's really a no brainer. All the old pirate movies and Sinbad movies and Dungeons and Dragons, all meeting somewhere, where they don't belong historically, but they just go together like spaghetti and meatballs, just peanut butter and chocolate. Flintlocks, sword fighting, sea monsters, cannons, ships, buried treasure, a couple of cool magic items, and you have got the basis of one of the best games you could ever imagine. Without at least one or two of those ingredients, for me, it just feels like something's missing. I've had some good games, but the best are always on the high seas. So let's see. Yeah, Cal, that can you imagine? Because I know there's another pirate game out there that has some pirate ship models, and they're 28 millimeter scale, and there's rules for all of that. But I noticed the ships all looked kind of dinky, and even these are not going to be the biggest ships you could expect to find on the high seas in any of those eras. I'm certain that a proper ship would be closer to 4 or 5 feet long and 2 feet wide to get the real feel of that. But that's like the table that I'm sitting at right now is like 2 feet by 4 feet, maybe a little bit more than 4 feet. And I'm looking at it and like, yeah, that's more appropriate to like one of the bigger galleys or galleons. But no one's going to do that. You make a table and it's that, as far as I can see, or you make something very big and it's going to be made out of wood. Then it's going to take you the better part of a year to get right. But until that happens, we've got these, and these will be a hell of a lot of fun. Imagine when your one of your players becomes the captain of said ship, and it's their ship. You know, there can't be uh, much better a feeling in this hobby than something an accomplishment like that. And hopefully one of my players one of these days soon will know that feeling. I know at least a couple of the guys in my game are thinking along those lines, building their own ship. Yeah, they are. They're absolutely gorgeous, Cal. And I have the Falling Star, and it blew our socks off when we got it, but this just amps it up, like you know, turn it up to 11 and break off the knob, kind of amped up when it comes to how awesome this Kickstarter is. And I'll be back again, probably in about a week to see how far along it's got, to show you some of the other stretch goals, in case you haven't already, started eyeballing your family members for their kidneys, because this is definitely worth the price of admission, provided you're actually going to use it, or at least paint them up. Otherwise, like me, you're going to end up with a score of boxes under every table of unassembled, unpainted miniatures. Uh, these are definitely something that will warrant, if not a place on the mantelpiece, their own dedicated shelving unit just to show them off. All four of the core sets would make for a really nice display in any of the traditional glass cases where you can just put everything in there and go, okay, cool. All right, guys, empty shelf number 3. Get it on the table. We're about to go to town or something like that. You found a free galleon. It's a kids one. It's so. You have to send me some pictures. I've seen some toy ships. I wouldn't mind repurposing. I remember when I was a kid, Arco gas station had a Noah's Ark set, and I've seen them in the wild, and by the wild I mean eBay, from back in the day, and they're not cheap. Basically, every time you got to fill up or something, you got like a pair of animals, and eventually, as the promotion went on, you got the boat, and it was a good foot and a half long, and I loved that as a kid, that toy set, and I wish I kept it, but it was it was over 55 years ago, I want to say, or around that time, about that long ago, and so obviously it's going to be expensive, but I could have definitely repurposed it, and then kicked myself when I saw what I'd done. Uh, but there's some ships out there, and you could always take the reservoirs from Super Soakers and turn those into ships. I made a couple years ago, and they turned out really nice. There's ways to get more ships on your table, but I mean, you have to have two. I mean, one is great, but you'll never have those boarding actions, those pirate attacks without two. It takes two to tango, as they say. And I think if you painted them upright, they wouldn't look so identical either. I could see one in like black and gold, and then another one in just wood tones. You get your bad guy ship, Black Bart the pirate or some such, or some evil necromancer with an undead crew, or your ghost ship. You could do so many different themes and use them over again in the same campaign without your players thinking, oh, this again. I don't think you'd ever hear that, and if you did, gatekeep them the heck out of your gaming space, because with what you're going to be laying down to acquire these and paint them up, etc. That's just um, that's just not acceptable. But that's what I got for you guys tonight. Went on almost an hour. I have got some writing to do, and hopefully, if someday Archon sees this video, they'll take my criticisms and advice too hard like they have in the past. And it's nothing personal. I just I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything, and I'm going to give you my honest opinions. And sometimes, even the best of us, and I know you guys have a wonderful team working on this, but from almost 50 years of experience, I think I know a thing or two about a thing or two when it comes to the gaming world, having worked in 20 different shops and gamed at more than that over the years, and played with hundreds and hundreds of players of all ages, all walks of life. I've seen the things that the players are going to be attracted to, and the little issues that might break immersion, or be a little problematic, for repeat play and things like that. And hopefully, you know, uh, they'll prove me wrong with every one of them, and I'll be just as happy as I've been with every Archon Studio product I've ever seen. I just got 2 words before I leave for the guys at Archon Studio. You know what those words are, right? Star side. I want to see that next. I've been waiting. I've been bugging you guys for going on about 4 years now. I think it's time we see that, because when that comes and hits the market, uh, you're gonna see about 33% of the Warhammer 40K players jumping ship. Pardon the pun. Actually, that was totally intentional. And coming over to Starside. Everybody else out there in the chat, thank you guys for showing up. If you want to come back when I do the next talk about this Kickstarter, Cal, Crafting Gamer, who else was here? Uh, I think that was just it. two of my good friends who are always here for me. Thanks, guys, and I will see you guys either tomorrow or later on in the week when we do the other stuff. But I got to get some writing done, and I will see you guys real soon. And until then, happy trading.